She never wanted to go to another world, but no one asked her. Stupidity and arrogance led to death, but instead of hell or heaven, she woke up in the body of Hatake Kakashi. She is not a hero, and it's too late to change the past, it has already happened. She does not have the stamina of an Uzumaki or the genius of an Uchiha, only the loyalty inherent in Hatake and inherited from the previous owner of the body. She was once a simple girl, now she is a kunoichi. She has no choice but to fight and survive. Prologue. September is a wonderful time. Any schoolchild who, after 3 whole months of rest, has to get up at 6 in the morning in order to be at school by 8 will tell you this. I'm not an exception. No, I don't have any particular aversion to studying, it comes quite easily to me, and our teachers are great, but 11th grade, a wonderful time for exams, changes in the education system due to the appointment of a new minister and, as a result, one of the mandatory exams is a foreign one. But I have a hard time with him. Well, I have no talent for languages. Although my mother says that it's not that I have no talent for languages, but that I'm just lazy. I do not argue. In the end, in 3 years I was able to learn spoken Japanese. I watch anime only in the original voiceover and without subtitles, and even master a little hieroglyphs. I remember a whole 100, but English stubbornly hangs around at a poor C and by ear is not perceived at all. If not for this, I would have become a medalist. But not fate. I'm lazy, and I don't see the point, even though my parents are itching in my ear that it's graduating class, I need to come to my senses, it's time to choose a specialty, etc. and so on. Tired of it. I want a breath of freedom and joy. Anyway, then you will have to study, otherwise they will cut off funding and deprive you of the joy of the internet. And in general, my mother is a good inventor, she will find a way to straighten her brain. However, all this did not cancel out one single desire. I wanted to unwind before studying and happily agreed with my friends that I needed to wash away my grief. Necessarily. We thought and wondered for a while. One of them turned out to have a new guy with a car and a free dacha to boot. Having envied her happiness a little and grieving that I only come across idiots who do not understand the happiness that has befallen them, and therefore run away after a week, I decided to give up on everything. No, just think, at 17 I'm already a grandmother, like a second cousin, but I'm not sure. I just know that my best friend, the pest with whom I grew up in the same house, and the doors opened onto the same landing, is my granddaughter. History is very silent about how this happened, but I know that my nephew is the same age as my mother, from whose side I was blessed with such a relationship. So that overage stunner calls me aunt in front of my guys, and my friend calls me grandmother. At first it was fun, but after the nth number of jokes about the fact that I was well preserved, the guys flew out of the house with a bang, and I again found myself freely searching and sulking at my relatives. She forgave only for good chocolates with cognac. After devouring them she tried to find her happiness again. In general, I tried not to give in to despondency. I was still a pretty girl, with a good figure, a sweet face and long thick hair, so I found new guys relatively quickly. Once we even got to the most important thing, almost. The guys shouldn't have blurted out that despite the fact that I'm a grandmother, my skin is smooth and silky, just like in the advertisement. Was it necessary to say that? But I'm already tuned in. I was literally melting with excitement in his hands, but after these words, I kicked the half-naked idiot not only out of the room, but also out of my life, throwing the rolled-up things at his back. By the way, this was a month ago, just when the parents went to the sea, leaving me as an adult in the care of my nephew, not realizing that he also wanted to relax and was invited to go fishing, so he would also go away for a couple of days. Well, I decided to take this opportunity. It's better to lose your virginity on your own territory. And don't laugh at me. I wouldn't be able to relax in someone else's house. It's calmer. I prepared properly, even cooked dinner, kicked out my granddaughter, describing in vivid colors what would happen if she broke my buzz again or decided to move over the balcony to me. The house was an old building and we had them together, in order to control the process. In general, I did everything, and then there's this phrase. You would know my disappointment And the guy was good. He tried to beg for forgiveness, but I was cut off. All love passed, common sense appeared, and I began to see its shortcomings. I fully admit that at that moment resentment spoke to me and I saw everything as excessively grotesque, but I couldn't help myself. If before I was touched by his smile and ability to joke, now it seemed that he smiled like an idiot, and his jokes were flat. The voice that used to make me melt began to seem unnecessarily rude. Laughter loud. And so on, according to the list. Now all its advantages have firmly taken the place of disadvantages. Sad. One thing was good, he studied at the institute, and it was located a little far from my school. He would have little time to pester me further. If it were otherwise, I would have strangled him. He's been testing my patience for a month now, you see. He doesn't want to remain just friends, he wants me. Just a little more and I'll start using the heavy artillery and set my pug on him. It's high time for me to take care of him and get him to shake out his fat. To the pug, I mean, not to the ex-boyfriend. I used to be too lazy to train the dog, but now such a reason appeared. Exactly. He won't leave me alone for another week, and I'll definitely start training my wolfhound, 30 centimeters at the withers. However, all these thoughts are just lyrics and cannot change the fact that now I will go with my friends to the dacha. Well, there's a barbecue, accompanied by a good drink, or vice versa? It doesn't matter. The main thing is that this is the best thing before the school year. All that was left was to get out of the apartment unnoticed, and in a bundle. Luckily for me, I managed to escape quite easily. It turned out that my parents had gone to visit my grandmother, taking with them a small, shrill misunderstanding. Yes, we have mutual love and understanding, who also happens to be my younger sister. But I was so lost in my thoughts that I didn't remember how I excused myself from this dubious honor, and even the departure of my parents. If the letter hadn't been stuck on the refrigerator like a magnet, I wouldn't have understood where everyone had gone. I'd just be glad that I was alone, that's all. However, I didn't jump for joy for long. My friend/granddaughter/classmate, all rolled into one, came after me and we went to have fun. It's a pity that we couldn't go overnight. We would have had our heads twisted for it, but we still found a way out. If you get drunk in the morning, you will sober up by evening. Verified. It's just a pity that after a couple of glasses of beer I get carried away, the brakes come off. I try to share with everyone my good or bad mood, depending on the situation. One thing is good, after drinking, I don't become inadequate, I'm just more sociable and can talk nonsense for hours. Sometimes a useful skill. It's a pity this time it won't help. Upon our return we were probably in for a good headache. But that's after returning, and for now I was just having fun, relaxing in the company of friends and acquaintances. Fortunately, no one thought to invite my ex-boyfriend, which allowed me to behave more relaxed. In general, the fun was in full swing when I felt a sharp pain in my ankle, but when I glanced there, I didn't see anything. Just a little redness and a bite mark. Well, a bite, so what? Naturally, in a depressed state you don't pay attention to it, and after that you completely forgot about it. The fun was in full swing. I remembered in the morning, when I woke up and couldn't get to my feet, and in general any movement gave off wild pain, and then I noticed that I was not in my room and opposite there were a couple of beds on which several young women were sleeping. Panic immediately set in, but I was lucky. A man came in who, upon closer inspection, turned out to be a doctor. I ended up in the hospital. Caused snake bite and anaphylactic shock. It sounds crazy, especially since snakes never approach large companies and try to avoid noisy places, but still. I was the only one bitten at the party. What was worse was that no one could remove all the poison, it had already dissolved in my blood, so they gave me a general antidote. There was an effect, but it's too early to talk about recovery. It was necessary to lie in bed for an indefinite amount of time. Basically, school starts a couple of weeks late for me. I would even be happy and jump around the ward, but it was difficult to move. However, this did not stop me from rejoicing, albeit mentally. An hour after the doctor left, I stopped feeling happy. I felt worse. It's good that my roommates had already woken up and noticed my antics. One of them rushed to call a doctor, the other rushed to me and tried to find out what was the matter. There was a bustle all around, behind which, strangely, it seemed as if I was watching everything from the side. I see and understand that the body wheezing on the bed mine, but I don't feel anything, only a subtle curiosity. I suddenly didn't care, although I followed the doctors as they loaded my body onto the gurney. Soon we found ourselves in the emergency room. It's hard to say what the doctors did to my body. All the words came to me as if through a layer of cotton wool. I couldn't grasp their meaning, I only realized that they couldn't cope. My heart is failing. I even saw how they were preparing something wildly similar to a defibrillator, but I'm not sure. I've never been a doctor and didn't even intend to become. I had enough biology and chemistry at school not to dream of doing this all my life. Yes, after dissecting a frog in class, I threw up. Although I was not afraid of blood. Paradox. It was a stupid thought, but it was the last one. At the same time as my body bent from the current charge, my consciousness went out, and for the better, probably. I came to my senses. It would be better not to come. Everything hurt. Absolutely. Even something that, by definition, could not hurt, but apparently it did not know about it and was sick. However, I didn't remain conscious for long. My attempt to move resulted in such pain that I again sank into unconsciousness. It's a pity that this time it's not complete. I had nightmares. I saw the death of friends, only their faces were familiar and unfamiliar to me. In the dream, I considered them not just friends, but a team. One was stoned and died because of my arrogance and pride. He died, but even after death he remained to protect me, giving me his eye. The second. I pierced her chest with my hand, and at that moment I woke up, still not moving away from the horror that I felt, feeling the blood on my hands, the blood of the one who always supported and was there, who became more than a friend, became a sister. Nightmare again? A soft male voice came over my head. I raised my head in surprise, taking my eyes off my hands, which in my dream were scarlet, but in reality were normal, slightly pinkish, but this quickly fades into the background. I saw that my dream come true was sitting in front of me. Blue-eyed blonde, looking with such warmth, sensei. It was this word that emerged from the depths of the subconscious. I frown. I don't understand where it came from. This is the first time I've seen this guy, but I already want him as my husband. Whoa! What kind of thoughts? You just saw a man and are you ready to attack him? I frown even more, realizing that no, I don't want to, but I already adore the owner of those amazing blue eyes in absentia. I so adored my overaged nephew until the 5th grade, whom I saw much more often than my father and treated accordingly, but it's not clear what's the matter. Although, in some ways he is definitely familiar to me. I would even say too much. I saw him somewhere, but he was dressed a little differently. I tried to strain my memory and pull out the details, but instead, emptiness. A thought flashes at the edge of my consciousness, but I don't have time to grab onto it. How many times should I tell you, it's not your fault? The guy carefully takes my hand in his hands and looks tenderly, with well-hidden sadness in his eyes. Why do I feel like this is wrong? He shouldn't look at me like that. I am guilty. Strongly. But what? I can't remember. You did everything you could. Rin. Rin? One word, or rather a name, and fireworks explode in my head and a memory flashes before my inner gaze. I see a cute brown-eyed, brown-haired girl with a strange pattern on her cheeks. Small, happy and cheerfully chirping something, poking a thin finger at the scroll. The picture changes and now the girl has grown up, but with the same drawings on her still chubby cheeks, smiles victoriously, and shows me the genin headband in her hands, which a little later she ties on her head, the last memory. I pierce her chest with my hand. Blood, thick scarlet, bursts out and spurts from the hole in her chest. The splashes reach my face, warm drops slide down, tracing paths. Rin slowly slides down, and the sky begins to cry, Kakashi? The blonde's voice pulls me out of the whirlpool of memories that are not my own. I jump up in confusion, wondering what he called me. Kakashi? A new batch of memories falls on my head. It seemed like blood was gushing out of my nose, but I didn't have the strength to raise my hand and check. Fragmentary pictures of someone else's childhood began to quickly flash in front of me. Moreover, everything was perceived by me as if they were mine. I saw the first time they showed me how to throw kunai. I felt the heaviness of the metal, its coldness and delight when I finally managed to hit the target. I remembered how my father first started showing me racks and teaching me how to use the family blade. But the main memory is how he calmly, before my eyes, with the help of a shadow clone, committed seppuku. Stop! Shadow clone? Rin? Kakashi? Blue-eyed blonde sensei? God, let this not be true. I just wanted to relax and not go to school. Chapter 1 Sensei's Kindness. It's hard to say how long I remained unconscious this time. I didn't ask. Wild apathy fell over me. It was too scary to find out that I was in the Naruto world. I never dreamed of this, unlike my granddaughter. Moreover, I didn't want to end up with the female 15-year-old version of Hatake Kakashi. Moreover, she almost died on one of the missions as an ANBU. Or rather, I was lucky, they managed to deliver her to Konoha and patched her up in time, otherwise she would have gone to the Shinigami trial, as they say here. However, there is a high probability that she did go, but I don't know. I don't care. This whole week I have been fed the strongest sedatives and antidepressants, but they help little. Kakashi's memory wakes up in jerks, associative chains, and I myself don't know when I'll freeze in place and look into nowhere. True, over time, the attacks become more rare and abrupt, the nosebleeds have stopped flowing and there are no fainting spells, but no one knows when this will end. By the way, my condition was called partial amnesia and attributed to the consequence of an injury, quite serious, apparently, although this piece of memory was lost and I cannot say for sure. On the one hand I should be happy, but on the other, the antidepressants did their job and I simply didn't care. Although my attempts to cheer up my friends, more precisely, Kakashi's friends, even amused me. Partly then I remembered what kind of ass I had landed in and a new portion of the sedative, and then I again began to not care. Kakashi, you understand that this can't go on anymore, right? Kakashi's mentor, or rather mine, Namake's Minato, never gave up trying to reach my poor little head, but all in vain. I didn't react to anything and he usually left, but then, something went wrong. He sighed and, looking at me regretfully, muttered, "It's nothing you can do." If so, he was silent for a while, and then shouted loudly, "Kushina, come in." Of course, expensive, a red-haired woman appeared at the door of my room, a pregnant woman. My head immediately exploded with the usual pain, giving out a new batch of memories. I remembered who was in front of me, Uzumaki Kushina, wife of the mentor and part-time mother of the future idiot of all Konoha. Yeah, she was unlucky. The next second, instincts scream about danger, and the body rolls out of bed. She shatters into pieces. "What are you doing, Kushina-san?" burst out of me indignantly. Not the first or last time, I have long noticed that the necessary appeals slide off the tongue by themselves. And the reflexes of this body are excellent. "You're not listening to me at all, you bastard!" An enraged woman barks at the edge, pinning me to the floor with a monstrous sigh. The apathy immediately began to disappear, replaced by a wild thirst for life. I didn't want to die, especially so mediocrely. "Sorry. I don't recognize my voice," some kind of plaintive squeak comes out. "Sorry?" I think I made her even angrier than I already was. "Kushina, don't worry. You don't want to harm yourself and your child, do you?" The red-haired fury is carefully grabbed by strong arms. "Sensei, I adore you." With one phrase, pacified the enraged beast. "You are a risky person, it's not for nothing that you became Kage." "You're right, Minato." Kushina nods dissatisfied. "I decided that we would take Kakashi with us. She has no reason to live alone." "What?" The cry turns out to be too loud, even with notes of hysteria, but under the attentive gaze of Uzumaki I immediately shut up. That's great. I brought your things. Kushina takes out a small scroll and, freeing herself from the embrace, comes up to me, simultaneously opening a simple blue dress. I don't understand, am I a preschooler? Yes, I didn't even wear sundresses of this cut in first grade. However, after looking into Uzumaki's eyes, I decided to keep my witty comments to myself. Probably the instinct of self-preservation kicked in. It's late, but it's better than nothing at all. Well? They shove clothes into my hands and look at me demandingly. Are you thinking about changing clothes? I hesitantly reach out and glance sideways at Minato, who is in no hurry to leave. I don't dare voice the idea that undressing before your erotic dream is not the best idea. Two interesting pictures of the future throw up fragments of the memory I inherited. Minato, come out now, you guys. The transition from a sweet and calm cutie to an angry fury happened instantly, greatly frightening and perplexing me, but I found the strength to stay in place. In the end, it wasn't me who was kicked out, and that's good. But changing into a tight dress is no longer very good, as is the automatically pulled mask over the face. I noticed this only after a few hours, but I liked the sandals. It crossed my mind that kunoichi wear these and, if desired, you can build a lot of surprises into them, but I couldn't develop the idea. With a gentle smile, they grabbed me by the elbow and dragged me away from the hospital. Lord, where does this woman have so much energy? I feel like a ball on a string. Kushina, I count on you. Sensei met me not far from the door to my room and waved after me with a sweet smile. Traitor! Kami-sama. At that very moment I realized that he was not cute at all. Not my dream come true. He is a brute who can still be found. The next half-day only convinced me of this. Kushina-san turned out to be an inexhaustible source of energy, and with her round belly she rushed around so that I couldn't keep up with her, so they dragged me along by the hand. After an hour, I didn't feel it, just as I couldn't remember everything that was done to me. And it should. Firstly, I was dragged into Kaka's house. My house, yes, mine. I should start getting used to talking like that, since I am Hatake Kakashi. So, they dragged me into my house, criticized all my clothes, justifiably in my opinion. After all, 3 sets of Konoha Jounin uniforms and 2 more A and B uniforms are not enough for a girl, and having approved the weapon, forced everything necessary to be sealed in scrolls, which were found there. Having dutifully endured a new portion of pain and memories, I automatically did everything required, while my new friend gutted all the stash she had found. Perhaps, if I were the Kakashi that was originally, I would have been indignant and demanded at least a little respect for my personal space. But here's the problem. I was already a completely different person who was disoriented and put into a state of shock. I was silent and did what was required of me, sometimes freezing in front of this or that object. Memories. They came in a continuous stream, not allowing me to relax for a second. There were even more of them in the house than while I was walking across a small piece of my clan's land. Empty, abandoned, and uninhabited. Memory suggested that the previous owner of the body used only 2 rooms, her bedroom and kitchen, almost never the armory, preferring to buy everything new and taking from there only the family tanto, of a fairly large house and a training ground. There were also 2 libraries in the house, a general one, genin-level scrolls and general information about the world, and a secret one, which can only be opened with the help of the blood and chakra of a member of the Hatake clan. God! And this is just the surface information. Having made sure that I had taken everything I needed from the house, in her opinion, Kushina-san again grabbed my hand and dragged me to the sensei's house. I'm not sure, but I think I saw Kurinai and Asuma's dumbfounded faces along the way. However, they did not try to catch up with me and they did the right thing. Uzumaki are truly impenetrable people. Well, I was afraid to say a word against her. Her transformations in my room and the memories of the previous owner of this carcass were enough to stick my tongue into places not so distant and keep quiet. This didn't upset Kushina-san at all. She had enough energy for 10 and she chatted incessantly, loading me with stories from the time I spent in the hospital. Soon I no longer understood who, where, why and why he went/did/married. I wanted to shoot myself. My brain was exploding from the excess of information, so I was not immediately able to react when they dragged me into the sensei's house and, babbling something about the unclean guest room, left me to meditate over a mug of tea. Yum! Amazing green tea with mint and dango. I've never talked about them before. Memories immediately began to flash in my head of how Kakashi and my friends sat after lessons at the academy in a dango cafe and ate this sweetness. Having endured the pain as usual, I sigh gloomily and take a sip. I squint, admiring the depth of taste and smell of the drink. I savor it, not noticing how my hands habitually take the dango and put the first portion into my mouth. I come to my senses already when I drink the last sip and finish the last ball of dango. My eyes widen and I look at my hands, dumbfounded. Not for long. Kushina-san bursts into the kitchen and drags me into the already tidied room, which seems to me too empty. There is no bed, the table is low, and the closet is empty. I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I shouldn't. They warmly supported me and took me shopping. Objections had no effect, and attempts at resistance were not even noticed. Once again I feel like a balloon that has no right to refuse and should just dangle behind my back. But in the store I felt better. Shopping! Moreover, without any special restrictions, Kakashi. I had enough money, I could buy everything I wanted, but I had to stifle unworthy impulses. Although I couldn't resist a little wardrobe update, as well as getting rid of the stupid mask. I'm not that Kakashi. I won't hide my face because I look like her father. This is utter nonsense. Just like limiting yourself by dressing only like a shinobi, forgetting that you are a girl. Kushina-san completely agreed with me, so we also went to the kunoichi store, picking up a whole bunch of cosmetics. When we finished, it was already deep evening and the stars were shining in the sky, but the sensei's restless wife wasn't enough. She dragged me to the baths, which were supposed to close an hour ago, but not for Uzumaki. That law was not written. She set a goal and walked towards it. I didn't resist, too much fell on me. I just wanted to sleep. Kakashi, Kushina-san called me quietly. During another second and I would have fallen into the water and drowned, going down in history as the first kunoichi to drown in a bath. Kushina-san? I blink in surprise, looking in her direction. Kakashi, I know this is hard for you, but continuing like this will only make it worse, she remarks quietly, ignoring the fact that I bat my eyes in confusion. You can't bring back the dead, she smiles bitterly. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. You can't bring back the dead, but with your actions you are making things worse not only for yourself. What are you talking about, Kushina-san? I carefully clarify. The brain refuses to give out versions, declaring that today, even without this conversation, it has a complete overdose of information, so the inscription, error, persistently floated before my mind's eye. Don't act like you don't understand, Kakashi. They looked at me surprisingly seriously. Uzumaki was completely transformed. The eccentric lady with an excess of hormones disappeared. An experienced woman who had seen a lot looked at me. You're only 15, and you've already given up on yourself. Yes, you lost your family, friends, but you are alive. They gave their lives so you could live. She came close, grabbing me by the shoulders and shaking me. You see, she lived. You don't live, you exist. Come to your senses. Look around. You are not alone. You have Minato, me. Stop keeping everything to yourself, enough. Kushina-san, I tremble, feeling how the part that I received from Kakashi howls in pain and cries. I just feel sorry for this woman. I see that she sincerely worries about the girl whose place I took. Not on purpose, but that doesn't take away my guilt. All this kindness and emotion is not meant for me. Kakashi, Minato, no, we're both worried about you. They hug me, pressing me tightly to their chest, bare chest. If I had been a guy, I would have already died from bleeding, but I was a girl and I just felt the warmth. So familiar to me and at the same time, so unusual for Kakashi, who did not remember her mother. Tears flowed from my eyes. Not mine, it wasn't me who cried, but fragments of Kakashi's personality. Although no. It was me who cried and howled. The dam of indifference has cracked. The realization hit me that I would not return. It was me, Hatake Kakashi, and the remnants of this kunoichi's personality mourned the pain of the loss that she had been keeping within herself all this time. I lost track of time, it ceased to matter. I just cried, throwing out all the pain and hopelessness that had accumulated in me. I didn't care what Kushina-san thought of me. I just cried, choked on snot and tears, internally expecting to be pushed away, but this did not happen. They hugged me and pulled me closer, affectionately stroking my hair and quietly, soothingly humming something, cradling me like a child. It became easier. Each tear dulled the pain, and a feeling of gratitude appeared in my chest. They didn't push me away, they supported me, and didn't let me sink into despair. Kushina-san could have just passed by, but instead she extended a helping hand. She's good, even if she's scary sometimes. Has it become easier? As soon as I pulled back a little, she asked me. Thank you, Kushina-san, I smiled timidly, wiping my face with a small towel that was previously lying on my head. Little things, the red-haired woman responded, smiling widely. I was once in a similar situation, and they helped me in the same way. Is it true? I ask and immediately bite my tongue. The memory of how the news of Yuzushio's destruction came is screwed into my brain. But I don't have time to start apologizing. I get the feeling that someone is watching us. Before it dawns on me, my body reflexively grabs a wooden, probably a basin, and throws it in the direction of my gaze. I'm not alone, Kushina-san follows my example. A split second later, we can hear our shells hitting the target, followed by the roar of the fall. We look at each other and both fly up onto the fence in one movement. How did I do this? A white-haired man lies on the ground. Jiraiya-sensei? Kushina-san bursts out in surprise, who clearly recognized the man who jumped to his feet at the sound of his name. The pain flared up in my head again. Pictures began to flash before my eyes. I remembered who this person was. This is a Sannin, a toad hermit, Minato-sensei's teacher, and just a pervert. Yo, Kushina! The Sannin immediately raised his fist in a greeting gesture, and then turned his gaze to me. I see you better now, Kakashi. Yes, thank you for your concern, Jiraiya-sama, I respond, bowing on reflexes alone and noticing how a thin stream of blood flowed from his nose. What are you doing here, Jiraiya-sensei? It seems that I was not the only one who noticed this. A noticeable thirst for blood began to emanate from Kushina-san, and her hair began to rise dangerously above her head. This, Sannin instantly wipes away the blood and hurriedly chatters, looking around along the way, looking for a way to retreat. Exactly. I'm collecting information and looking for inspiration. In the baths? I clarify thoughtfully, looking at my body covered only with a short towel. A wet towel that outlines a fully formed figure, which I would even envy if it weren't mine. However, things were even worse for Kushina-san. Not only was the towel short, but she also had a tummy, yes. Jiraiya-sama nodded proudly. I will need it in my future book. Databane. Not a scream, but a roar, and the Sannin slams him into the wall. I can hardly restrain my trembling, watching as the red-haired fury turns one of the strongest leaf shinobi into a chop. Not very successful, at least he missed only a few hits, and then tried to escape. It's fun to watch, but, Kushina-san, if you run around Konoha like this, Minato-sensei will not forgive me. I shouted, following the woman who was already about to start. She instantly froze, examining her clothes, and frowned with displeasure. You're right, I expected anything, but not consent. Not in vain. Let's get dressed and start searching for perverts. Kara will overtake everyone. Eh? I blink stupidly, but no one is going to listen to me. They just grabbed me by the hand and dragged me to the locker rooms. I didn't dare argue. The look in her violet eyes betrayed serious passion, and the hair curling over her head, an extreme degree of rage. A phrase instantly appeared in my head: Akai Chishio no habanero went hunting. Lord, how good it is that it's not for me. Chapter 2. Looking forward. I don't presume to judge how long we chased the Sannin, but it was fun. I myself stopped noticing how I was using the skills I had inherited, succumbing to the situation and immersing myself in emotions. Although I don't argue, from the outside everything really looked funny. One powerful man runs away and hides from two fragile kunoichi, one of whom is also pregnant, and the second gets tangled in the hem of a dress that is too long for her. It was even funnier to see the faces of the Uchiha patrolmen who relentlessly followed us and heard shouts in the spirit. "Drive to the left, kunai at 2 o'clock!" They didn't take theirs, but the good Uchihas shared. "We'll take it in pincers!" Or, "You won't leave, pervert!" I haven't had so much fun in a long time, and I'm not the only one, judging by Kushina-san's crazy smile. We chased the nimble prey all over Konoha until we got to the house where the sensei was sitting on the threshold, frowning menacingly. So Jiraiya-sama tried to hide behind him. Yeah, considering that he was a head taller and 20 centimeters wider at the shoulders. "Minato, save me!" It was impossible not to hear this cry. There were a lot of emotions mixed in him, the main one was hope. We drove the guy. It seems that he himself believed that his death was near. Well, he wasn't far from the truth, although I still don't believe we would have killed him. At most they were a little battered, although this is unlikely. "Minato, step aside, you guys!" Kushina-san roared excitedly, and I couldn't help but agree with her. All my instincts screamed that I should catch up but what? And I decided to think later, when I catch up. "Yes, Minato-sensei, he is our prey," I assented. During this time I had completely gotten used to the role of the hunter. "That's right, Databane." Kushina-san shook her fist militantly. She looked impressive at the same time. Even her stomach seemed to be rushing forward to get to the offender. "Prey?" The sensei, who had lost all his belligerent mood, blinked stupidly and, turning towards the Sannin, clarified. "Jiraiya-sensei?" "I was collecting information," Jiraiya instantly reported, not realizing that he was thereby provoking new problems for himself. Much more dangerous than the two kunoichi, which by definition could not inflict worthy harm on this big guy. We were both weaker than him, and not yet in shape. In the bathhouse, where it was just the two of us, I immediately clarified, feeling that it was time to get away, otherwise I would fall under the hot hand, then prove that I was not a camel and was just passing by. "Sensei?" Now I understand why his enemies are so afraid of him. I haven't felt such horror even from Kushina-san today, but she knows how to scare. And in the heat of the chase, she often forgot, starting to involuntarily release concentrated ki, scaring civilians and cats that got in her way. All for the sake of art. Jiraiya-sama immediately responded and backed away. In vain. Sensei has not yet lost steam due to our late arrival, but here are such details. Sannin is a risky man. I would say, respect, but instead a completely different word comes to mind, idiot. Who will admit that he brazenly admired the naked wife of a student, and an equally naked student? Moreover, a personal student, which, according to local realities, makes me almost his daughter. Not quite, of course, but the comparison is very close to the point, sufficiently conveying the degree of trust and relationship between student and teacher. Basically, for Kakashi, Minato Namike's second father. "Kushina, Kakashi, are you tired and hungry?" Without turning around, Sensei turned to us and, without waiting for an answer, added, "Go to the house, everything is ready there, and I will join you soon." "Certainly." I grabbed the arm of Kushina-san, who wanted to be indignant, and walking around the sensei, quickly ran into the house. She understood too well how a normal man would react to the fact that his beloved was seen naked, even by a teacher. I'll modestly keep silent about myself. I'm just a student, the only survivor. "Kakashi!" Uzumaki was indignant, but I have no desire to argue with her, and the excitement of the chase has not completely gone away. "Kushina-san, is the courtyard clearly visible from the roof?" I interrupt her and immediately receive a wide smile in response. My idea was understood and appreciated instantly. "Certainly," sounds in response, and we, looking at each other, rushed upstairs, simultaneously not forgetting to go into the kitchen and grab a bag of chips. Harmful crap, but delicious. Moreover, unlike the ones I'm used to, carcinogens were not added to the food here, so pregnant women can also have them, just in small quantities. True, we quickly forgot about the chips, carried away by the picture of Namikaze Minato versus Jiraiya that opened before us. I never thought that watching someone else fight is so exciting. Although chanting chants in support of the sensei was clearly unnecessary, Kushina-san and I were slightly worried about it. However, not only we, but also the Uchiha patrol watched the battle, although they were careful not to meddle into the territory of the house. It's a pity that all this did not last long. Soon Minato-sensei calmed down and expressed everything that Jiraiya-sama wanted. Along the way they spoiled the landscape a little. I would still love to see it. This is such a level. Without any jutsu, and even for me, a jounin, an experienced ANBU, half of the movements were not visible. Stop. Who should I? Jounin? Experienced ANBU? My head exploded with pain again, this time revealing the details of me becoming a jounin and an ANBU. I had to make an effort to move away from the pain and refocus my attention on what was happening. Minato-sensei had already finished raising his mentor and, looking attentively at me and Kushina-san, measured his steps towards the house. Damn. Someone's in trouble now. Kushina-san, it seems it's time to get lost, I whispered barely audibly, knowing sensei's look too well and not wanting to get caught. I have enough adventures for today, and troubles too. I agree, you guys. Instantly sounds in response, and we hastily run away from the roof. However, the stupidity of our act becomes clear immediately, because it will no longer be possible to escape from the house unnoticed. However, they didn't let me think and guess for long. They grabbed me by the hand and dragged me into the kitchen. There was already a table set for 3, but the food was not laid out on plates. We exchanged glances with Kushina-san and suddenly begin to fuss, putting out another set of cutlery and plates. With a serious look, he begins to place the already prepared, divinely smelling food on plates. Sensei is amazing. If I weren't married, I would have taken it for myself. A man who knows how to cook tasty food, not just barbecue and fish, is a real treasure. Although, he's a little old for me, 8 years apart, and I won't go against Kushina-san. On the other hand, I now live with them and will eat here, so the problem with food is removed. In general, we don't get upset and help arrange the plates beautifully. It is precisely this activity that Minato-sensei finds us doing and looks at us with a destroying look. It makes me laugh. His smell makes it clear that he is not angry. Stop. Smell? Another headache brings memories of training with Niken and their confusing explanation of how to determine someone else's mood by individual shades of smells, and then several memories that show how I practiced this skill. A comprehensive answer, albeit a little painful. Minato, are you done? While I was struggling with another outbreak of pain and disorientation, Kushina-san decided that the best defense was an attack. We've already been waiting for you. March to wash your hands and go to the table. There is no justice in life, right, Minato? The voice of Jiraiya-sama, whom we cannot see, sarcastically reaches us. It seems that he wisely did not wander into the kitchen, remaining in the hallway. However, not for long, soon he appears in the doorway, looking at us with a malicious look. Jiraiya-sensei, this applies to you too, Tebane. Kushina-san notices, but without a spark, she has clearly calmed down. True, it doesn't need much time to flare up again and go on the attack. An amazing woman, a real Uzumaki. By the way, I didn't forget anything. I'm silent. The Sannin reacted instantly. It's unlikely that he was tired, he just decided not to let things get to the point of sin. Alive! The concentration of bloodthirst jumps for a moment, but I'm already starting to get used to it, and my hand didn't even tremble. I calmly continued to put the kettle on the stove. A minute or two later, not only those who had washed their hands, but also Minato-sensei and Jiraiya-sama, who had changed their clothes, came to the table. The question of how this happened does not even arise. Memory helpfully provides information that the Sannin is a frequent guest in this mansion and has his own room. I don't even know whether to be happy or not that I will live in the same house with a pervert. However, he was not psychotic or suicidal. It's unlikely he'll pester me, at least Kakashi's memory points to that. Jiraiya-sama, although a pervert, simply does not see certain women with girls. Mostly these are the wives of friends or their children. He can make jokes, but no more. Usually he doesn't even peek at them. Our case is an exception. Apparently, the Sannin didn't immediately understand who he was seeing, or he was carried away by watching a picture in the Yuri genre. It's difficult to describe our half-naked hugs in the bathhouse in another way. In general, we created problems for ourselves, although Jiraiya-sama is also good. If I weren't a pervert, I wouldn't get screwed. In general, my conscience is clear and innocent. I barely suppress a yawn, still trying to concentrate on what the others are saying. Kakashi, go to sleep. My mentor immediately noticed my inept attempts to disguise my condition. However, I didn't really try, the day exhausted me too much. Yes, and there were a lot of emotional shocks, but I am a simple person, unprepared. After hysterics I want to sleep, and not chase after perverts. Today it didn't work out, this is the result. I feel completely defeated. Unpleasant, but not fatal, it could be worse. Moreover, both for me and for Kakashi. Hey, sensei, I respond weakly, getting up to rinse my teacup, but Kushina-san takes it from me. Go, Kakashi, I'll wash it. They ruffled my hair and I didn't argue. I really wanted to sleep and didn't care that this time I had to sleep on a futon. I had a busy day. I leave the kitchen on autopilot. As I now get to my room, out of the corner of my eye I notice a pile of scrolls with clothes and other small things that Kushina-san and I managed to buy while walking around Konoha, but I decide to deal with them tomorrow. Now there is no mood or desire, and there is not enough chakra left. No, I won't have any problems with unsealing, because I learned to feel chakra. Due to the implanted Sharingan, I opened it in the first days and caught a rollback, immediately passed out from pain, but I felt all the chakra channels, at least that way it seemed to me, and I already remembered the printing process. She sighed resignedly and winced. The memories still come back along with the headache, which I really don't like. It's good that I've already met all of Ka's friends, my friends. Most of the memory is already available to me. Today, in general, while I was running after Jiraiya-sama along with Kushina-san, I managed to remember many of the fighting skills, and even try some of them. It turned out well, in the civilian's opinion, but I, like Kakashi, was unhappy. Speed has dropped, agility has also dropped, strength is no good, and chakra doesn't listen well. Only now it dawned on me, and then I was on the rise. Other people's emotions turned out to be surprisingly contagious, and there was a whole sea of them in Uzumaki. I didn't even want to sleep. I suddenly realized that declining skills were certain death for me. Hatake Kakashi has too many enemies, and his track record is impressive. I don't want to die. I'll have to bury my laziness deeply and for a long time. Kami-sama, but how can I regain my form and reach my previous level? No exit. You'll have to ask Minato-san for help, and at the same time show him a certificate of partial amnesia. I sigh sadly. I don't want to lie to him. However, I have no right to tell the truth. I like living here, even if I miss my parents who stayed there, and even my squeaky sister and my niece and granddaughter. Only now I realize that I couldn't go back. The pain doesn't help. There was a time when I almost cut myself with a razor in the hospital. After that I was prescribed a powerful sedative. I already checked. It doesn't bother me anymore. I was unlucky. Kushina-san's words confirm this, as does my memory. I gloomily clench my fists and go to prepare my sleeping place. The futon is found in the closet. I take it out automatically and roll it out on the floor, carefully laying out the clean, starched linen. All this does not require attention, body memory, so be it. I want to throw a tantrum, but I can't. The meltdown at the baths and the subsequent pursuit of Jiraiya-sama drank me dry. Emotions have calmed down and don't want to appear. One plus is that without them it's easier to think about my next actions. I didn't dream of getting into the Naruto world. But since I got there, and even one of the main characters, it would be stupid to fold my paws and die. Although this does not mean that I will rip my throat out and prophesy a sad future. However, sitting on your butt straight, floating with the flow, will be doubly stupid. If Minato-sensei dies, there was an unpleasant stabbing in my chest, but I suppressed the inappropriate manifestation of feelings, deciding to develop the thought further. In general, if he dies, nothing good awaits me, and it's trite. I won't be able to sit and watch his death calmly. Once you think about it, such a storm arises in your soul. With great difficulty I force myself to push away the images of Minato-sensei's death and suppress the desire to rush down and tell everything. I need to sensibly evaluate my strengths. If I say something wrong, Sensei will immediately suspect something. He is kind, even too kind, but with his own people, but I'm not quite Kakashi, who was his student, and therefore, I may not receive protection. Therefore, we grit our teeth until they crunch and get used to the role. It's a shame, of course, to deceive, but there is no other choice. I must become Hatake Kakashi in the full sense of the word. It's easier, it doesn't hurt so much. However, it will not solve future problems. Kushina-san is pregnant, 3.5, almost 4 months according to Minato-sensei. I won't say more precisely, but according to the memory I inherited, Uzumaki's smell changed 103 days ago. In general, the sensei did not lie when he entrusted the student with the most important information, which she had already managed to share with her friend's grave Rin, just before the mission on which she almost died and I ended up in her body. I suspect that she was overheard at that moment, at least that's what happened in the anime. I don't know how true this will be in reality, but let's take this data on faith. The conclusion is not the most rosy. I won't be able to butt heads with the bijou or Obito, who has become very skilled during this time. I have 6 months to prepare. One question: where to start? Question. I had difficulty restraining myself from hysterical laughter. I had to pinch myself on the side. The pain brought me to my senses and did not allow me to wake up in despair. 6 months. Maybe a month more, especially considering that Jinchuriki carry children for a month longer. It's too little. However, I have no choice. If I want to stay alive and safe, I have to help keep Minato-sensei alive. He is the guarantor of my safety, just like Kushina-san. No one will trample against them, but against me, it's scary. Officially, I am the head of the clan, but the clan consists of only me and does not have much weight in the council. The previous owner of the body gave her vote to Sensei immediately after he became Hokage, and I fully support her decision. I don't want to get involved in politics, it scares me, but it's unlikely that politics will stay out of my way. There is hope, but only if I have someone to hide behind and gradually get used to this world. First action: leave ANBU. Now I'm too weak and won't be able to complete the missions they give there. If I ever can. Although, who will ask me? I'm a jounin, officially, I have to go on missions. I bite my lips in dissatisfaction. Scary. I am 100% sure that now, the very first mission will end for me trying on a wooden Mac. Don't want. So you should become stronger. How? The easiest way to restore body skills is to correlate them with your memory. It will be difficult, but easier than developing new ones. However, you can't do without this either. I urgently need to increase my vitality. The only thing that comes to mind, Irajutsu. Previously, Rin did this on the team, but when I became a jounin, I mastered Shosen, but superficially. There, stop the bleeding, reduce a bruise or scratch, nothing more. Here you will have to study in more depth. Although you shouldn't expect me to reach Tsunadeheim's level in 6 months. However, covering wounds is more serious than a scratch from a lash branch. Quite. It's also worth rummaging through the clan's bins, recalling old techniques in memory and trying to learn new ones. Napoleonic plans. I can't help but yawn. I feel better. Now that I have set a goal for myself, it has become easier. It seemed like a multi-ton boulder that was pressing on the shoulders disappeared. Fine. Tomorrow I will have to go to Rin and Obito's graves, and now I'll go to sleep. Chapter 3 Tribute to Memory. In the morning I got up early, even too early, for that one, but not for Kakashi. She was always an early bird, first because of her father who woke her up for training, then because of nightmares and ANBU work. In contrast to her, I wasn't exactly a sleepyhead, but I loved to lie in bed. Now I don't. I was filled with energy, and had a desire to spend it on something. My thoughts from the night immediately came to mind, and I decided to start implementing them right now. Moreover, the time may not have been early for me, but 7 o'clock in the morning. It was just the right time to warm up. Well, considering the fact that I'd been lazy for so long now. I quickly scraped myself off the futon, just as I cleaned up the bed linen. There was also no question of what to wear. It is better to train in jounin uniform. It is made of special fabric and reinforced with wire made of chakra-conducting metal. Of course, I won't train the same Chidori, but even taijutsu can be dangerous. I have a lot of work ahead of me. Yesterday I remembered some of my skills, such as throwing kunai and setting traps, but now I have to remember the usual training to keep in shape. I sigh wearily. I don't want to, but I have to. The thought that my inaction guarantees a one-way ticket is a good motivator. I go to the pile of scrolls, rummage through it, and pull out the ones that seal my clothes from home and print out the standard jounin uniform. I put it on just like that, not wanting to walk down the corridor to the bathroom, because I don't want to bump into anyone. More precisely, to face Jiraiya-sama, and I'm simply embarrassed. It's better that I do it the old-fashioned way, through the window. It's not high here, just a couple of meters, and go down to the training ground. Fortunately, Kushina-san said that she brought me into the barriers, and there's no need to worry about letting me pass. The main thing is not to lose determination already there, but I don't see a choice. The desire to live is stronger than I thought. So I force myself to grab everything I need and head to the training ground near the sensei's house. What is noteworthy is that there is nothing there that indicates yesterday's battle. Apparently, when we escaped into the house, Jiraiya-sama cleaned it up with the help of Doton techniques. I sigh enviously. Enough of chilling out, it's time to run, jump and do other things that I'm not too keen on. The pain in my head is growing again. Memories of my first training with my father come, then training with the team and Minato-sensei, solo training. A lot of information, useless and, on the contrary, very useful, good. Now at least I know where to actually start. Warm up before running, just before running. Remember that doing this without weights is stupid. Once again, hit myself in the forehead, reminding me that I'm not going to train to exhaustion, just test my skills a little and continue training as before. Difficult. An hour later, I joylessly stated that without adrenaline I was exhausting myself too quickly. However, I didn't specifically use chakra. With it would have been easier and less exhausting, but without it, it's deplorable. I sigh wearily. The memories I got say that the past Kakashi could run, jump and throw everything that came to hand in the same mode, if not more intense, for several days. Not the greatest result, if you remember Guy, whose youth power was enormous. Badly. I have completely lost my shape and I urgently need to regain it. I can't rely on reflexes, can I? I'd rather spend my time, but be confident in myself. Crap. I'll have to turn to Kushina-san. I need weights, preferably fuon-based ones. They distribute the weight better, helping to develop all muscle groups. I'll need this. So, let's go into the house, wash off the sweat and ask for help. Uzumaki-hime should not refuse. As far as I remember, she always treated her husband's students warmly, often feeding us after training, and even now, it was she who decided to take me to her house, but sensei simply did not resist. I brush a wet strand out of my eyes. Also a problem. The previous Kakashi cut her hair relatively short, and during the time she spent in the hospital, her hair grew long, reaching her shoulders. Not critical, but inconvenient. They get in your eyes and get out of your ponytail. I'm more used to long ones, not short ones, which means I need to grow them. Somewhere in the cosmetics I bought yesterday I saw something to speed up their growth. I nod thoughtfully to myself, only noticing that I had already climbed into my room and even printed out a kit with an ANBU uniform. Why the hell? I'm not going to work. This needs to be fixed urgently. The uniform goes into the closet. Instead, I find among the purchases a simple pale emerald kimono and beautiful lingerie that Kushina-san fully approved of. Now a towel and a shower, and then we go down to breakfast. We can throw away the shopping analysis on a clone. Fortunately, I know the jutsu, even if it's scary to use it, but it's necessary. For general development, so to speak. Only one thing won't last long, otherwise you never know what consequences there might be. I definitely don't want to become crazy. I already have mental problems. I perceive everything too calmly, indifferently, and it won't be possible to blame everything on a past breakdown that was yesterday. I grimly rub the bridge of my nose. Enough thinking. Staying in the room all day won't change anything. So, inhale and exhale, calm down and concentrate, and now make a seal that I remembered and used part of the chakra. I wince. Hurt. For a moment there is a sucking feeling inside, but it quickly disappears. I open my eyes and sigh with relief. It worked. In front of me stands my exact copy, only in a mask, although I'm sure I didn't put it on myself. TCH. Again the games of my sick subconscious. Kakashi became too close to the mask. It was her shield, and now let me disentangle it. However, it doesn't matter, it's generally great for the first time. And it wouldn't hurt to sort things out, so I simply nod to the clone, who mirrors my gesture. So let's check whether it's true that the clone fully receives the memory and behavior matrix from the original, and that the experience he has accumulated will return to me. It won't hurt to check. This is a gold mine. And you don't need to tell me that I'm lazy, I just have to translate my reflexes into my skills. In other words, I already have muscle memory. I don't have ordinary memory of how and what to do. The clones won't give me the first, but the second. If the experiment is successful, it will solve a lot of problems. The main thing is not to overdo it, and not aim at hundreds of clones, otherwise I'll boil my own brain, which I would like to avoid. Good morning, Kushina-san. While thinking, I don't notice how I find myself in the kitchen, where Uzumaki-hime is already spinning around. However, judging by the fact that she is washing the cups, I was late for breakfast. I hope I don't get into too much trouble, and I also want to eat. Hello, how was your training? Despite my secret fears, the ladle didn't fly into my head, but they gave me a wide smile and immediately began to fuss around. Will you have breakfast? I won't refuse. I responded with difficulty keeping up with the red-haired meteorite. And the workout is terrible, I lost my shape. So what? A plate with quite decent scrambled eggs and a couple of small sausages dropped in front of me. If there weren't chopsticks instead of cutlery, I would have thought I was home. Endurance, flexibility, accuracy have decreased. I haven't tried to train with Tonto yet, but it's unlikely that everything is so rosy there either. I sigh in defeat, breaking the sticks. Chakra control has fallen, but the reserve has increased slightly and it seems its properties have changed. We need to check it. You can't really concentrate during training. I make one movement and start remembering 100 more, plus a bunch of side information. I'm afraid I'll have to fiddle around for a long time without help. Your memory is really bad, right? Kushina-san left sympathetically. Well, not that much, I shake my head. Simple, exactly. I poke my chopsticks at the sausage that is on my plate. For example, take this sausage, what does it mean to you? Just a sausage? Uzumaki-hime raised her eyebrow in confusion. In general, yes, but for me, once I saw it, it became the key to a couple of funny memories. I smile wryly and add. Rin once learned to make octopuses, I helped her, and then together we fed them to Tobito. He fought back so funny and didn't know where to get away from me. Kakashi, a gentle touch on my hand brings me out of my memories. Sorry, I immediately apologize, realizing that there are tears in my eyes. Everything is fine. Uzumaki-hime doesn't ask any more questions, she just remains silent, and I'm grateful to her. I didn't expect that other people's memories would bring so much pain and light sadness. It seemed like I was trying to stuff a sausage into the little Uchiha's mouth and demanding to know whether it was tasty or not. In general, any object or action makes me remember again. This complicates the training process. Kushina-san, I sigh heavily, taking a bite from the long-suffering sausage. And I'm a jounin and I need to get back into shape as soon as possible, otherwise I'll just become a burden. Well, why so categorically? Kushina-san smiles. And I will help you with training. What are you talking about, Kushina-san? I immediately start waving my hands in her direction. I don't want to burden you. And against her will, her gaze tries to fall on her stomach. I don't even want to imagine what sensei will do to me if Uzumaki starts training me. She already moves too much and gets on the nerves of everyone she comes across. Pregnancy is not a disease, Kushina-san responds categorically. Besides, I won't run after you or fight, I'll just give you access to the obstacle course that Minato and I made for ourselves. I involuntarily swallow saliva, mentally giving up on myself. Kakashi, and therefore I, knew about this place and there was no chance of getting through it alive even at the peak of my strength. What can we say about now? Although you won't go there today or even this week, they clearly saw my horror and were amused. Well, in the meantime, I'll give you weights, we'll get your body back to normal. Hi. The answer turned out to be extremely pitiful, because I did not like the enthusiastically anticipatory look of the future sensei. I wanted to hide in a bunker, but for some reason I was sure that this would not save me. They will reach you there to pull you out and help. Kami-sama, what did I sign up for? Only there was no choice. I needed help like I needed air. That's good. We'll start tomorrow, but for now you can rest. The wide smile looked frankly ominous, making me swallow convulsively and be glad that I had already had breakfast, otherwise I would have left the table hungry. What are your plans for today? I want to visit the graves of Rin and Obito, I respond quietly, averting my eyes. I haven't been there for a long time. Yes, Uzumaki immediately became serious. This is a necessary thing, and then go see Minato. He forgot his abento, and he said that he wanted to chat with you. Fine, I nod in agreement and fall silent. However, the silence in the kitchen does not reign for long. In my opinion, Kushina-sen generally does not know how to remain silent for a long time. Although now was a good opportunity, she left for a while and brought a couple of black wristbands, which, upon closer inspection, turned out to be weights, and immediately handed them to me. It took some time to set them up and me trying to regulate the weight being distributed. Naturally, I received a new portion of memories and a headache, and then I thank Kushina-san for the help in food, receive a scroll with a bento and go to the cemetery. The road is familiar, but everything is new to me and it seems no one recognizes me. I'm ashamed to admit, but some chunin tried to flirt with me. And it didn't stop him at all that I seemed to be one-eyed. How much I suffered while I was wearing a regular bandage instead of a hitaite. By the way, another strange thing, the limited view didn't bother me at all, and I wasn't eager to get acquainted. However, everything was very civilized. I just affectionately called my name, and while he was coming to his senses, I moved on. My path went right past the Yamanako shop, and the memory immediately came that I often visited them for white lilies. The idea immediately comes to adjust the movement a little and go there. Welcome! A smiling woman of about 25 comes out to meet me. A statuesque kunoichi with a luxurious mane of brown hair and piercing aquamarine eyes. Immediately the memory comes that this is Inoichi-san's wife. Is there anything I can help you with? Hello, Midori-san asterisk. I bow to her reflexively, barely suppressing the desire to wince from the pain in my temples. I'd like 12 white lilies, please. I want to visit old friends. Will now be, the woman smiles warmly, approaching one of the tall vases. She begins to carefully pull out the fragile flowers, at the same time deciding to unobtrusively ask me questions. Have you recently arrived in Konoha? Sorry for this question, you just remind me of someone. You should be ashamed, Midori-san. I can't help myself and giggle into my fist. Nevertheless, the atypical clothes, cosmetics, and lack of a mask played into my hands. I was not mistaken, they really don't recognize me, although they sense a catch. You won't recognize the student of our respected Hokage-sama. Kakashi-chan? Almost dropping the selected buds, the woman exclaimed and turned sharply in my direction. Yes, I nod in agreement, regaining my serious expression. Oh, you won't even be recognized. The woman shakes her head and looks with curiosity, clearly trying to build a theory in her head about what made me change so dramatically. A real kunoichi, and how similar she is to Tsukumo-san, but your figure and eye shape are definitely that of a mother's. Thank you, I express my gratitude, feeling slightly sad. You know, Midori-san, give me 24, not 12 lilies. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. The woman immediately looked away guiltily, perfectly perceiving the changes in my mood. No, you're right. I smile sadly and shake my head. By the way, Kakashi-chan, do you know what kind of girl settled with Kushina? Midori-san instantly changed the topic, returning to the neat packaging of flowers and paper. Yesterday many people saw her with her, they were chasing Jiraiya-sama with such excitement. And then they stayed in the same house. It's me, the mood began to rise rapidly. Don't go to the fortune teller here, gossip has already spread across list, one more beautiful than the other. It's even a pity to interrupt the flight of someone else's fantasy, but it's better not to lead to sin, otherwise what if Kushina-san hears them? I'm afraid to even imagine her reaction. Kushina-san decided that after being wounded it would be difficult for me to be alone and urgently asked me to move. I decided not to argue, because sensei was completely on the side of his wife. Here's how much disappointment sounded in someone else's voice. With difficulty she suppressed a slightly inappropriate laugh in this case. Okay, here you go. They hand me flowers wrapped in paper, which I paid for without waiting for a reminder. Goodbye, Midori-san, I politely say goodbye. Come again for a more joyful occasion. Midori-san called after me. I will be happy to make you a bouquet for your wedding. I resist the urge to say something harsh, instead I simply turn and nod with a slight smile. I don't need enemies, and the status of the only student of the yondaime imposes certain restrictions. Any wrongdoing of mine will affect his reputation, and I don't need that, just like meeting someone else. The conversation with Midori-san stirred up old pain and gave me another portion of memories. Now I remembered a couple more cases involving Kakashi's father and, oddly enough, my mother. Nothing special, but the good thing about childhood memories is that they contain a lot of light. Except for the part where Tsukumo-san kills himself, the rest are more cheerful, filled with laughter and smiles or hard work with praise at the end. Yes, they are wonderful and I simply have to at least just pray for them. It's a pity that I have nothing to tell them, and it's dangerous. I am not sure that I will be able to notice the observers, which means I must remain silent. I blow away a lock of hair that has fallen in my eyes and notice that I have already entered the cemetery, and my feet habitually brought me to two gravestones. Uchiha Obito and Noira Rin. I don't know what it cost Sensei, but he managed to bury them nearby. More precisely, not to bury him. In Obito's grave there are only his broken glasses, but to make tombstones nearby. Hello Rin, Obito, I say quietly, feeling my throat constrict with a spasm. Someone else's memory is playing a bad joke on me again. I dissolve in it, and am no longer sure that it wasn't me who carried out the first tasks with the guys. I'm sorry I haven't come to see you for a long time. My hands habitually place 6 white flowers in the vases standing here, but I forgot the water. But here the fact that I am a shinobi with Suetun comes to the rescue. Condensing a little water using chakra is not that difficult, and this exercise is useful for me. I was in the hospital. I smile sadly, sitting down directly on the ground between the tombstones. For some reason Rin's frowning face flashes before my eyes and hastily adds. No, Rin, don't worry, it's nothing, just a scratch. The picture changes. Now the girl shakes her head reproachfully. Sorry, you're right, it wasn't a scratch at all, but I still survived, and then I angered Kushina-san with my behavior. Almost the same as Obito once upon a time, I smile, remembering the funny incident when Uchiha tried to refuse food from Uzumaki. She was very angry with me, but then we talked, and you know, Rin, Obito, I realized that I was wrong. I bite my lip, the next words are difficult. By living as I do now, I am betraying their sacrifice. Ha! I smile, looking at the Uchiha's tombstone. Obito, you were right after all. I am selfish, but I will try to improve. I feel tears rolling down my cheeks and fall silent. My voice is failing me. More memories and accompanying emotions come crashing down on me. Hurt. I sob. Sorry. 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 Quiet, like a delirious whisper. I apologize to them all, but first of all to Kakashi, whose place I took and now use the graves of her friends for my own justification. I have to explain the changes in my behavior, and all means are good. It takes me a while to calm down. I've never felt so bad before. However, the tears dried up, my breathing evened out, and after some time I found the strength to get to my feet and get up. I have tired you with my problems. Sorry. See you? Tiredly, I bend down and pick up the remaining dozen lilies. They are intended for Kakashi's parents. Although who would know how much I don't want to go there. Too strong a rebound occurred after visiting the grave of friends, my friends. And I don't care that in fact Obito is alive. I know that the bright boy whom Kakashi admired so much died then, and what was left, this was no longer the Obito I knew. He is a completely different person who betrayed his ideals. In the end, he supported Madara's stupid plan, even knowing that Kushina-san would die if it was carried out. An eternally cheerful and cheerful Kunoichi, who with a few words was able to give me a purpose in life, but she had been communicating with him for much longer. They often argued and fought, but always made up. Remembering their relationship, I can say for sure that they were like brother and sister, but here. However, I still have a chance to change everything and I can't miss it. I just have to do something. I have no right to sit idly by. I will do everything I can to ensure that Sensei and Kushina-san survive. Am I right, Too-san? I carefully moved my hand along the old stove, which Kakashi had not been able to approach for many years. I just didn't have the courage, but I had enough. Chapter 4, Proposal. I don't presume to judge how long I've already sat at the tombstones of Kakashi's father and mother. I was silent, simply placing 6 white flowers in front of them and scattering the paper in which Midori-san gave them to me with ashes. The words seemed unnecessary, feigned, and empty to me. They couldn't express even 100th part of what I felt. Although when leaving, I still whispered a quiet, "Sorry!" I simply couldn't do otherwise, even though I understood that they don't forgive for this. Not parents, for whom their own child is always more valuable than life. Yes, I am also a victim, but who will believe it? I don't even believe myself, even though I know the whole story inside and out. Doesn't matter. For now, you should get used to your new name, which is quite simple, and restore at least some of your skills. Ideally everything. However, I'll start doing this tomorrow, but for now. Kushina-san was too insistent in advising me to take the food to Sensei for me to ignore her request, and it was already lunchtime. I don't feel like going back, and the memories of the dispelled clone said that he did everything I wanted and even more. He not only sorted out the purchases, but also helped wash Kushina-san's clothes, not only mine, but all the rest. I never liked cleaning, but here I volunteered to help, feeling too uncomfortable from the fact that a pregnant woman was straining so much. True, now I'm paying with a little headache, but it's not as bad as I thought. The clones didn't remember unnecessary information, they just did it, and that's it. The memories attacked me later, simultaneously with a quick review of the information that came from them. In general, I admit that clones are a good solution, but you can't make too many of them, it's too dangerous. But to practice what I remembered, after visiting the sensei, I go to the clan library. I read the scrolls there first in the general section. This will allow me to restore some layer of memory. Then I make a clone that goes to the training grounds and works out the academy program, at which time I myself will continue to read and remember. Although first I'll test my skills with Shosen, this will reduce the risk, otherwise with such an initiative I will crawl home to the sensei, and tomorrow I will not be able to train under the leadership of Kushina-san. This will upset her strongly. She is too bored, but here is such entertainment. I got no chance. My only hope is that the sensei will understand my position and be able to persuade Kushina-san to let me go to Irajutsu classes. I need practice, and new knowledge never hurts. For example, chakra transfer jutsu, chakra no mezu, or the ability to remove poison from the body. Kakashi did not own any of this, and, in my opinion, it was stupid. We should catch up, and we need to deal with the rinnegan in the near future, otherwise they will deal with me. Eat grief with something sweet, or what? That won't help. I shrug and still decide to go have a bite to eat at a familiar cafe. The guys from our class often stayed here. The food is tasty and quite cheap, although simple, but even that was enough for the genin. However, not only the genins, later they also often gathered here, but after the loss of the team, almost never. Now, I just want to quickly remember everything and make my life easier. At the same time, we'll eat, since none of our friends are there yet, and we don't need them. There is no mood to talk to anyone, and if we meet, questions will definitely come. Especially from Kurinai, who will not leave changes in appearance unnoticed. Considering Midori-san's reaction, I wouldn't want to be married off to someone in absentia. I understand too well where such rumors can lead. Well, at least the sensei is not the kind of person who will listen to them. And he listens to advice with great caution, and glory to Kami. Otherwise, Kakashi would have been married for a couple of years already. Many people whispered to him that they were fighting each other, and that her husband would definitely set the brains of the depressed student, and that the almost destroyed clan needed to be restored. I didn't listen. For this alone you can kiss him on both cheeks. However, I'm not suicidal, so I'll just mentally thank and pay tribute to the lunch the waitress brought me. I left the cafe after about half an hour, well fed and relatively peaceful. Now my path lay towards the residence. I must save the sensei from starvation. Moreover, I won't save. Kushina-san will be upset, right to the point of death, mine of course. Well, maybe not to the point of death, but I don't want to test the patience of Uzumaki-hime. It's enough for me that I've already asked for help in training, and she gave me first-class weights. I can already feel the effect they give. I'm afraid to imagine what will happen next, and in general, angering my future torment. Teacher is not the smartest decision, so let's go hand in hand. Along the way, collecting interested glances and not paying attention to the shouts. After all, Minato-sensei's guards and secretaries are my classmates. I wonder if Genma, Iwashi or Rado is carrying the papers today? Although, knowing them, they probably got involved in the social activities of some genin, leaving a clone to look after everything, while they themselves did not take their eyes off the sensei. Well, yes, he can be restless. One drink with Fugaku-san and Jiraiya-sama is worth it, but they had a reason then. One had a pregnant wife for a couple of months already, and the second just found out that he was going to become a dad, while the third was just for the company. However, this did not stop them from raising the ears of all of Konoha. I shake my head, moving away from yet another memory, and look around the waiting room. Only Shirani is there, which means I was wrong and the rest, for once, decided to take over hauling the waste paper. Genma, is the Hokage busy? I'm interested purely as a matter of form, because I know that sensei is always free for his students, but in general there are different situations. What if he now has a meeting with the heads of the clans, and here I am, so beautiful, falling in? No, I don't even want to think about such a situation. I'm not ready to meet with them, even if the sensei maintains good relations with absolutely everyone, and accordingly neither do I. Always busy for you, this miracle betrays me, measuring me with a rather hostile gaze. Is he so worried about the honor and dignity of Minato-sensei? However, this is not surprising, a clanless boy who rose to the position of personal bodyguard, and all thanks to his abilities, although not only. I recommended this trio to sensei, knowing that they were responsible guys and would serve not out of fear, but out of conscience. Well, Minato-sen was never known for snobbery, calmly treating clanless orphans. He was like that himself, so he agreed without any problems. However, this did not stop the guys from considering themselves obligated to me and him, which ultimately led to them caring too much about us, like now. I didn't recognize him. I listened to enough of the conversations and considered him just another fan, deciding to stand up to defend the honor of my mentor. Kami! And I thought I'd talk to Midori-san and the rumors that started after we ran for Jiraiya-sama would disappear. Apparently I made a mistake somewhere, but in what? Everyone already knows about the Yamanakos, that they are the main gossips, and if you want everyone to know about your affairs, tell them about them in the flower shop. True, we should give them credit, they know when to remain silent and not show off. Genma, I'm serious, is Minato-sensei busy or not? I wince, both from the situation as a whole and from a new portion of pain because of the memories, now directly related to my relationship with Shirani. Otherwise, Kushina-san sent me to him with lunch. Is it necessary to explain what she will do to me if I tell her that the sensei was busy and could not receive me? Don't feel sorry for me, feel sorry for Hokage-sama. Minato-sensei? He looked at me blankly for a while, then stood up and walked around in a circle. Kakashi? I am me. If at first I was amused by the fact that almost no one would recognize me, now it was frankly annoying. Well, will you answer the question? He's the only one there, except for Iwasha, who's trying to get him to at least drink tea. Genma finally stopped his pacing around me and thoughtfully transferred the samban from one corner of his lips to the other. He's buried in papers and doesn't want to see anything. He says he doesn't have time for any nonsense. It looks like a sensei. I sadly raised my gaze to the ceiling. Another trait of a mentor is diligence and accuracy, bordering on pedantry. No, he is also a human being and sometimes he does stupid things in good company, like that drunken party with Fugaku-san and Jiraiya-sama, but this happens very rarely. Basically, he takes a responsible approach to his work and fools around only in his free time, which, as the Hokage, he doesn't have much of. I'll go help Iwashi. I think he definitely won't ignore the food given by Kushina-san. At the very least, I'll say that it will upset her. Go! Shirani nodded, his eyes flashing with interest and clearly preparing for the performance. However, he was not the only one. I opened the doors to the office with a fair amount of apprehension and interest. Not in vain. The epic feat a Kage-level shinobi against his will was definitely impressive. Per Iwashi! Minato-sensei! Everyone froze at my exclamation. And those who need it, and those who don't. Oh Kakashi, come in the first sensei died, it's immediately clear that he lives in a house with Uzumaki. No surprises are scary to him. I respect you. You are exactly what I need. Minato-sensei, can you be more specific? I'm warily interested. Otherwise, Kushina-san has already expressed interest in my training and personally promised to help me get back in shape. This is amazing. I don't like his enthusiasm. Oh, I don't like it. It seems that this arrangement suited him quite well. Sensei? I carefully walk inside. I still won't be able to escape. We'll catch up. It's not for nothing that he is considered the fastest shinobi of Konoha, and indeed the Naruto world, in general. I would like to ask you, he casts a menacing glance at Iwashi and Genma, who are warming their ears. They instantly understand the hint and evaporate from the office. Another couple of seconds, and the office will be fenced off with a powerful barrier. It will protect against eavesdropping. So, I wanted to ask you to guard Kushina. I don't mind. I don't think long before answering. This is an ideal option for me. But, Kakashi, he clasped his hands and put his chin on them. You understand that now you will not be able to return to ANBU's service. You also saw the results of your examination. You cannot use the Sharingan this month. And in general it is advisable to refrain from using costly techniques. Not to mention your memory. I understand, sensei. I wince and rub my temples. The caring tone evoked a couple more memories with educational lectures. For the most part, they related to Obito, but Kakashi and Rin also shared some. I constantly remember something, and every memory is vivid, as if it happened just yesterday. It would be bad if I became distracted because of this, and my physical form is no good. You need training and a lot. Glad you understand this, sensei nods in agreement. You understand that my skills have dropped significantly, and I will not be able to provide adequate protection? I know that these are not the words he wants to hear from me, but I can't remain silent. I'm already keeping too many things quiet. You said Kushina was interested in it, Sensei smiled, nodding understandingly. Yes, she promised to send me to your training ground, I sigh resignedly, knowing full well what this threatens me with and mentally hoping that I will survive. Maybe. There are chances. Your task is to observe and help, if possible, to protect from rash actions. With an even wider smile, Minato-sensei began to list, but noticing my skepticism, he immediately added, if possible, Kakashi, if possible. While she is in the village, no one will dare to touch her, but Kushina is quite energetic and I am afraid that she may harm herself. Reasonably, I nod in agreement, remembering how much Uzumaki managed to redo in the morning until my clone dispelled, and even before that she had not sat idly by. Constantly on the move, so the sensei's fears are justified. Glad you understand this, he smiled once again, literally exuding rays of goodness and light. Where can I learn this? Although it's not worth it, I've already changed my behavior too much, it's good that fine motor skills remain from the previous owner of the body. Then you won't mind that I issued a B rank mission to protect Uzumaki and issued it in your name. The term, well, until the time comes to give birth. Sensei. I am indignant, although internally I am satisfied beyond belief. This piece of paper relieves me of the need to run around Hinokuni and perform A and B duties. Life has definitely gotten easier. Kakashi, this is my personal request. The gaze of blue eyes penetrates directly into the soul, forcing you to obey. Crap. I already agreed, the voice becomes doomed. Only Kushina-san doesn't say a word about this. Am I my own enemy? Minato-sensei was indignant at my words and, exchanging glances with me, laughed cheerfully. I involuntarily support him with a smile, yet it is difficult to remain indifferent to his charisma. Sensei, this is all good, but I will still spend part of my time in training, which will be too dangerous for Kushina-san, I notice. Yes, and it's not interesting. Don't worry, you will have partners, your team will take turns looking after Kushina, Minato-sensei nods in agreement. But you understand, it's better for my wife not to know this and they will be on duty at a sufficient distance, at least while you are nearby. I understand you, Sensei. I nod in agreement, feeling relieved, but also slightly wary. It's not just that my protection was required. This means that something is happening and I may not like it. I will take on the mission, but I want to warn you that I have decided to enroll in more advanced Irainen courses and receive a rank. Good decision, the mentor approved my plans. When you receive the class schedule, tell us, we will draw up a duty schedule. Yes, sure, I nod, thinking about my further actions. It looks like I won't be able to postpone going to the hospital, but I may not get to the clan library today. Then I have no more questions for you, Minato-sensei calmly tells me, simultaneously removing the screening barrier. By the way, why did you come? Kushina-san asked me to give you the abento and make sure you eat. I catch myself, hastily taking out the scroll that Uzumaki handed me and coming close to the table. I decisively make room in front of the mentor. A few more moments are spent unrolling the scroll, and then I place a beautiful box and chopsticks in front of the mentor. This, Minato-sensei was taken aback by my impudence. You're right, I nod in agreement and go to the door to look out and demand. Iwashi, Hokage-sama asks for tea. Hi! Comes in response, and a minute later he flies inside with a small teapot and a cup to go with it. I take the burden from him and thank him with a nod, immediately pouring it and placing a full cup in front of the sensei. Eat. I look gloomy. Otherwise, I'll tell Kushina-san that you didn't like her cooking. Unfair reception, Minato-sensei shuddered. But effective. I brushed aside other people's objections. Memories once again help, and while I was waiting for Iwashi, I was able to see which documents Sensei had already reviewed and signed, and which ones he decided to throw in the trash. Well, in order to unload the table a little, I sorted them under the attentive gaze of blue eyes and now grabbed them to hand them to the guy who had not managed to escape. Minato-sensei, do I hand over the signed documents to Awashi? Yugam, he answers vaguely, but the threat to tell everything to his wife worked flawlessly. Well, I managed to push unnecessary witnesses away. I'm everything. After about 20 minutes, the sensei's voice is heard, full of peace. That's good, I nod in agreement, easily sealing the box back and ignoring the teapot and cup. Iwashi will take them. Did I go? Yes, he nods with a smile, letting me go, but already at the door, his serious voice overtakes me. I'm glad that you still decided to open up to us, Kakashi. It suits you better without a mask. I flinch, but don't turn around. Hurt. I want to turn around and tell everything, but I overpower myself. Scary. I don't want to date Ibiki, and that's exactly what will happen if I throw something away. Minato-sensei doesn't need to know that this time he didn't make it either. His last student is dead, and the left person has taken over the body. Not worth it. Chapter 5 Start of Training. I left the residence not exactly hastily, but much faster than the guys wanted. However, I managed to keep my face and pretend that I ran away from their questions, and not because of what was said in Minato-sensei's office. Although who would know what it cost me? But even here Kakashi's memory and her skills came to the rescue. After all, she didn't become an ANBU for her pretty eyes, but for this time I withdrew on my own. No, I didn't transfer control of my body. There was no one to transfer it to. I just turned on the autopilot and perceived everything detached. It even worked for a while, and then I found myself standing not far from the hospital. Consciousness arrived on time, as did new pieces of memory, so finding the right people and enrolling in advanced Ryujutsu courses was not difficult. Fortunately, I was already considered an adult, according to local realities, and I didn't need anyone's permission, although I still had to reassure the elderly Irionan that my mentor was aware, otherwise there might have been minor problems. Still, Minato-sensei is not an ordinary jounin, he is Hokage. This automatically added restrictions to me, but surprisingly, this did not oppress me. I had already begun to perceive him as a close person, almost like a parent, so I went to him and Kushina-san for advice. There was simply no one else. At home it was similar. I chatted and asked advice from my mother, but I often had to take permission from my father. I shudder, realizing with shock who she had just compared them to. There is a feeling of an attentive look in the back, which makes you take a break from soul-searching and quietly look around. I find the observer immediately, a faceless mask and excellent camouflage equipment. However, I am not his target. His gaze catches a small dressed-up procession, where a rather plump lady holding a cat stands out. I'm shaking. Tora and his mistress. Still young, but just as big and problematic. I turn around and get out of harm's way. I still have at least 3 hours before dinner, which I must attend, and it's better to spend them usefully. Perhaps the most correct thing would be to go to the clan library and read generally accepted information, while simultaneously sending 2 clones to practice academic jutsu. Only now they will have to give more chakras, and call them one by one, otherwise I might overexert myself, yet sensei reminded me of my problems in time. The wounds received on the last mission are too serious. We need to take care of it for at least a month. Who would know how curious I am to find out what has changed in my chakra? It's not just that I began to use it worse. A slightly increased reserve may be to blame, but not that much. However, I am simply afraid of unknowingly injuring myself. It would be better for me to regain my strength gradually than to remain disabled for the rest of my life. My road passes in unhurried thoughts, and when I find myself in a deserted quarter, I immediately summon 1 clone, accompanied by whom I reach the library, and there I create a second one. I overdid it. I put almost all the chakra available to me into them. However, he will recover. I better sit down now. It's good that the clones don't need to explain anything. They calmly accepted my weakness and helped me get to the library, sitting me down at a low table to read. Soon they left, but at the same time they threw in front of me a bunch of scrolls with theory and books, an academic course. I already knew him, but it wouldn't hurt to brush up on my knowledge, especially before tomorrow's training. I sigh wearily and begin reading, which moves quickly, even too quickly. I have never had such an ability to memorize and analyze before. I immediately looked at the sheet and almost immediately remembered everything. A couple more seconds and I understood it. Amazing! Another legacy from Kakashi? Yes, it's reasonable. She was an ANBU, and this is not only the elimination of Nukanins, but also the theft of information, and in more than half of the cases, the information on the task is given to read only once. I didn't remember your problems. Or your comrades. And I still don't remember that some missions involve obtaining information without anyone noticing. In other words, look and remember, but don't take it with you. So Kakashi developed her visual memory. The skill is useful, especially for combat, where genjutsu can be used. I rub my temples tiredly, my clones have dissipated, distracting me from watching and thinking about what I read, and from the memories that have piled up. The headache is literally overwhelming, but now I am sure that my kawarimi, henge and illusory clone are excellent. You don't even need to add stamps, the main thing is to know what to replace with and what to represent. Along the way, clones and walking on vertical surfaces and water were tested. Of course, there were some problems, but they updated the skill quickly, and now I shouldn't have any difficulties with this jutsu. Although chakra control still did not increase too much, I managed to master the skill. True, this is all that the clones managed to do in 3 hours, and glory to Kami. Okay, the memories of my shadow copies, but at the same time a new layer of memory was unlocked for me about my training alone and with the team. There was even a couple of funny competitions with Guy. I curse quietly under my breath. In this state I won't be able to get to the sensei's house on time. I'll have to take a risk. I slowly begin to make the seals for the shosen. My hands become covered with a green glow, quite dim, completely different from usual. But I don't need anything more, just to relieve the headache a little. I take a deep breath, like before jumping into water, and raise my hands to my temples, trying to heal myself. It doesn't work right away and not completely, but after 10 minutes, the pain dulls and the head stops spinning. The condition is far from normal. But that's something. It's time to go back. I sigh resignedly and force myself to get up, my vision darkened for a moment. I stand motionless for a couple of seconds, trying to understand my condition. I recognize it as satisfactory. Of course, you won't be able to run on the roofs, but otherwise, like a cucumber, it's good at least without the pimples. Crap! Another sigh and I force myself to tear myself away from the tabletop and go out. I've had enough for today, it's time to go home. Easier said than done. You have to try very hard to walk through the streets with your head held high, without giving away your condition in any way, plus also avoiding meeting your classmates. In general, it's quite a task. However, I did it. Along the way, it even became a little easier. My head, of course, was still heavy, but it did not threaten to burst from any more or less loud noise. For me it was a gift from heaven. In the end, it's never quiet at Sensei's house. Such behavior is not typical for Kushina-san, but she loves to worry about everyone around her, doing it with all her broad soul. I wouldn't want to attract attention to myself. Kushina-san, I'm back, I announce and sniff. Smells divine. My stomach croaks in agreement, causing me to speed up a little. About. You're just in time, Kakashi, comes from the kitchen. Can you help set the table? With pleasure. I agree instantly, rushing to wash my hands and begin the task at hand. It's even surprising if you remember my earlier habits. I have never observed such desires in myself, but look here. They asked and I fly as if on wings. The dinner passed casually and this time without Jiraiya-sama. As it turned out, he had already left Konoha on some very important business of his own. I wasn't particularly interested in this, so I took the data into account, but didn't dwell too much on it. In the end, the memory I inherited hinted quite clearly that Sanin often disappears and can appear either in a year or in a week. An amazingly unreliable comrade in my understanding and a real legend in Kakashi's understanding. Combining both worldviews, I get that Jiraiya-sama is a good guy, but not serious, afraid of responsibility, or simply broken by past wars. It's too difficult to say more. And it's not particularly interesting. At that moment I was worried about something else. Minato-sensei reminded me of my desire to learn Irajutsu, and I handed him my schedule. Kushina-san instantly became interested in him and, nodding approvingly, began making some notes in a small notebook. They didn't let me look at them, but the sensei who revered them. I haven't seen such a sympathetic look from him for a long time. It looked like there was a plan for my training with Uzumaki. I had to sigh in resignation, and there was nothing else for me to do in the kitchen, and I didn't want to disturb the loving couple. I decided to show delicacy and leave them alone, while I had to meditate before going to bed, clearing my mind and putting in order the memories that had already appeared. Ideally, it would be necessary to drive chakra through the chakra channels, but I already abused my capabilities today, and it's simply dangerous to continue to abuse the SCC. However, this did not mean that time would fly by in vain. I would try to dig out a couple more memories. This could make my life a lot easier. Still, I'm tired of hanging around with a wild headache. No, you can distance yourself from it if you wish, but I prefer not to experience it at all. Well, I'm not a fan of pain. What can I do? True, something told me that nothing would work out so easily, and I turned out to be right. A couple of hours passed quickly in a trance, but I was only able to wrap my head around the information I had already received and gain a couple of new memories. Not very important, mainly relating to relationships in Kakashi's team, and considering the fact that Rin is dead, Obito is wandering around somewhere. I didn't need anything like that. It would be better if I knew how to communicate with Kurinai, but still the chance of meeting her is much greater. But at the last meeting I didn't understand much and in fact only learned her first and last name, plus combat abilities, which Kakashi knew a little about, that's all. However, it didn't work out and I had to go to bed with nothing. Sadly. This time I woke up much earlier than yesterday. It was due to the fact that yesterday there was less stress, and even that was in the morning, and the body recovered faster. This was a wonderful discovery, especially since today I have a busy program. Before lunch I have classes with Kushina-san, but after that they expect me to attend Irajutsu classes. The first lecture is introductory, after which they will begin to alternate with practical classes and go almost until the night. Well, at least not every day. In that case, I would have given up. However, when I went downstairs after my morning exercise, I was greeted by such wide smiles that I instantly suspected a trick. One joy is that if they pull me to training right away, I'm ready, immediately putting on the Konoha Jounin costume. Not easily soiled, comfortable, and most importantly, ideal for training, otherwise knowing Kushina-san. I thought that she would drag me to the training ground right after breakfast. It could have been before breakfast, but Minato-sensei was still at home, so I hoped for his intercession, if his wife's common sense failed. Good morning, the words come out a little hastily, but who in my place wouldn't get worried? A smiling sensei is great, but when anticipation flashes in Kushina-san's gaze, at the very least, you begin to fear it. Hello, Kakashi, sit down and eat. Uzumaki literally sang, starting to quickly set the table. Fortunately, the food was already ready and the sensei willingly rushed to help her. Breakfast passes in silence, my guarded, cheerful sensei and anticipation of Kushina-san. Thanks for the food, I thank you politely, taking the dirty dishes to the sink and immediately starting to wash them. I don't stop at my point, having decided that if I'm going to help, then help. Moreover, it's not a burden to me, I just discovered this myself, and Uzumaki smiled even more joyfully, how much more, clearly not objecting to this. I left. Sensei's voice reaches me, and then I hear the slam of the door and a quiet roar from the activation of the Haration. Well, at least he didn't immediately move from the house, he decided to save the nerves of his guards, that's already a plus. Kakashi, are you finished? Almost immediately after Minato-sensei left, Kushina-san asked me. Yes, I nod in agreement, wiping my hands. Then let's go. Decisively declares, this, when did Uzumaki change her clothes? Although it's good that she did not wear the standard garb of a leaf shinobi, limiting herself to a comfortable kimono with the mon of her clan on the back. And that drawing over there is strikingly reminiscent of Fuin. Fine, I shake my head and agree. You can think about Fuina later, after training. Assess my strength, so to speak, otherwise it will be unpleasant if I ask to teach myself this too, but I myself am not able to cope with the program. As soon as Kushina-san received my consent, she took off, fully confident that I was following her. However, she was right. I didn't lag behind her, obediently walking where they showed. True, my memory already suggested that we were going to a site near the deserted Senju quarter. It was there that the Uzumaki clan once lived, or rather a small part of it, until they all died under unclear circumstances. Kakashi didn't dig deep then. She herself was still a small child, but she noticed the very fact of the disappearance of the red-haired ones. Well, they didn't interest me too much. I isolated the main thing from the memories. There was a personal training ground for Kushina-san and sensei. The previous me was even there once. But at that moment my skills did not allow me to enter the obstacle course. What can I say about passing it? Kushina, you're late. We didn't reach the right place just a little bit when a woman no less pot-bellied than Uzumaki jumped out to meet us. Another flash of pain, and I already know that Uchiha Mikoto is standing in front of me, and hiding in the shadows is the boy Uchiha Koga, 5 years older than me, is the personal bodyguard of the wife of the head of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku. I don't like this. Sorry, Mikoto. Kushina-san immediately smiled widely, being in an overly elated mood. She didn't even get angry at the outright accusation that sounded in someone else's words. Hello, Mikoto-san. I bowed to the woman, and inexplicable gratitude to her appears in the depths of my soul. It was thanks to her that Kakashi left his friend's eye. More precisely, my predecessor thought so, but I looked at things more soberly and concluded that her participation was much less than Kakashi thought. But Uchiha could well have influenced her husband and asked to listen to Minato-sensei. Courteous as always, the woman smiled at me, nodding favorably. It was clearly a little difficult for her to bow. Kushina, why did you call? Not here, Uzumaki stated in a mysterious tone and stepped towards the training ground. My suspicion became wild confidence. Kushina-san suspected something, but until she was under the cover of the barrier, she would not say anything. Prudent, but why isn't it easier for me? On the contrary, I want to run away, but I can't. I already promised sensei that I would look after his wife. Kakashi! While I was trying to understand what to expect, we had already entered the training ground and the other observers were far behind. What, Kushina-san? I asked cautiously. In general, I thought about your request and decided that I would be bored alone. It would be difficult to cope with your training, Uzumaki stated decisively, but I didn't like her hesitation. Therefore, Mikoto called and it's time to help. She is still an Uchiha and good at genjutsu, even if she is limited in their use now, but they can also help. The woman's smile becomes very pleased and she turns towards Uchiha, innocently interested. Yes, Mikoto? This will be fun, interesting, Mikoto-san remarks, and then they both look at me. Kami, why? They won't get off me now. I have Iryujutsu classes in the afternoon, and for the next month I am contraindicated from using the Sharingan and chakra-intensive jutsu, I warn, knowing full well that I won't be able to get away. Let's take into account both women immediately became serious and nodded. Kakashi, get into position and be prepared for anything. Hi! I say doomedly, heading in the indicated direction. I have only one hope. They are both strong and smart kunoichi, and there is no point in killing me. I didn't cross the path of any of them. I have nothing to take revenge on. They came to help and have fun. They have very few joys. Kami-sama, I hope they want to help more than have fun. Kakashi, are you ready? As soon as you found yourself in a clearing with the Makiwaras, the voice of Uzumaki sounded out of nowhere. No, but will that change anything? I answer very honestly and get a cheerful laugh in return. You're right, nothing. Kushina-san's voice is quite clear. I activate the first circle, Minato, and I went through it before receiving the title of Jounin. Good luck. Well, thank you, you consoled me, I mutter under my breath, and at that same second I have to sharply jerk to the side, and in the place where I stood, A couple of kunai with explosion seals stuck. Kawarimi. Phew, I had time. No, I didn't have time. Another jerk away, and stone stakes grew in the place where I was. Wow! Another kawarimi and a jerk forward to almost drop the fishing line. Trap? Too easy. However, this was the last coherent thought, after which all hell broke loose. I don't know how much effort and chakra was spent on creating this training ground, but there were traps here, 3 for each step, and that's if you forget that Mikoto-san was not asleep either. A master who directed his talent at me, and I fell for it. Kami-sama, how many monsters I saw this time. I thought I wouldn't survive, but no. I am still alive and have a solid memory, just a little worse for wear, but it's not the worst thing in life. I'll survive. Now, the chakra reserve that has sagged by more than half, and this is without using a jutsu higher than the academic program, is already worse, as are the shaking hands, but I still hope that I will have time to get involved before we start practice. Or practice will become too much for me. Salvation.